Good Thursday morning, A3. Mr. Brown here. Thursday morning, May 21st, 2020. And I am going to, in this video, analyze a little bit of Chapter 5. This is our assignment that is due tonight, Thursday, May 21st, tonight at 8 p.m. Okay, these two assignments are due. You can see that I'm in our classwork. I have our two novels here, the Spanish and English version, and then of course the two assignments that are due today under the folder May 20 and 21, Night Chapter 5, the Night Chapter 5 figurative language and discussion questions, and the writing assignment, the Pink song lyrics, analyzing song lyrics and a biography on the artist Pink. Okay, so I am going to actually go over a little bit of Chapter 5 and the figurative language, so I'm going to open that up for us. I'm going to open up our assignment, our Google Doc, figurative language and discussion questions. I already have the book open, so you might want to take this time now to, if you want to go over it with me, to get your book open, to get the PDF open to chapter 5, page 66, and open up your own personal Google Doc, figurative language and discussion questions. Okay, so you might want to do that now. Okay. We are going over the figurative language. The directions were to quote the quotes below are a variety of similes, metaphors, personification, and hyperbole. Some quotes may incorporate two in one, and you were to identify the literary element or elements used and provide an explanation of how they are used in the quote. Okay, so let's go down a little bit. So of course we had simile, comparison of two unlike things using like or as, a metaphor, comparison of two unlike things not using like or as, and personification is a figure of speech in which an object, an idea, even an animal is given human characteristics, human attributes, okay? The non-human objects like, I don't know, a vase, the wind, a tiger, can be portrayed in such a way that we feel they have the ability to act like human beings. Hyperbole, exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally, okay, and good for a good reason. So if I go down, I use it as an example, an old quote from chapter 1, and it says, it was as though she was possessed by some evil spirit. Okay, you might remember Miss Schachter. Started becoming very irrational, okay? And it's here where it says this quote is a metaphor because the woman was not literally possessed, but in a figurative sense, she acted so irrational, she acted so crazy that she's been compared to being possessed, okay? So a metaphor um, for her her irrationality has to be inferred there, and because it was as though she was being possessed, okay? Let's go down. Okay, so first one, thousands of lips repeated the benediction, bent over like trees in a storm. If we go to our book and we go to page 67, you can see it there. 10,000 men participating in a solemn service. Um, Blessed be the Almighty. The voice of the officiating inmate had just become audible. At first I thought it was the wind. Blessed be God's name. Thousands of lips repeated the benediction, bent over like trees in a storm. So there we have it in context. Okay, so we can see that the men in the camp are all getting together to just sort of pray. So it's almost like a service is going on. And he talks about the officiating inmate saying, Blessed be God's name, blessed be the Almighty. And all the men say with him, Blessed be God's name. And Weissel says, thousands of lips repeated the benediction, bent over like trees in a storm. If there weren't 1,000, by the way, we could probably call that hyperbole, meaning he's just saying a lot of people. But let's take a look at what we said. Okay, so we're saying that this is a simile. Okay, the quote claims thousands of lips, meaning the men, repeated the benediction. It goes on to claim they were bent over like trees in a storm. The men bent over praying are compared to bent trees in a storm is a simile using like in the comparison. So if you can imagine the men saying the benediction over, and they also maybe bend over, almost like in prayer. Okay, so bending over like trees in a storm is a great simile. If you can imagine trees in a storm bending through the wind, these men are bending like the trees in the storm. Men bending, like trees in a storm. The word like there is a simile comparing those two unlike items. Okay, let's take a look at our second one. The race seemed endless. I felt as though I had been running for years. Page 72. Let's go to page 72 very quickly. 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. The first to go were the notables of the block. The Stubenalest, the Capos, the foremen, all of whom were in perfect physical condition. Then came the ordinary prisoners' turns. Dr. Mengele looked them over from head and toe. From time to time, he noted a number. I had but one thought, not to have my number taken down and not to show my left arm. Okay, down here he says, uh, it was my turn. I ran without looking back. My head was spinning. You are too skinny. You are too weak. You are too skinny. You are good for the ovens. The race seemed endless. I felt as though I had been running for years. You are too skinny. You are too weak. So we get an idea there that the officers are making them run, and he's not feeling that he's up to it. So our quote was, the race seemed endless. I felt as though I had been running for years. Okay, so in the context, we can tell that he's probably getting tired and he feels very weak. So what do we have there? The race seeming endless. Well, we know that most races have to end at some point because endless means just like sort of like in infinity. So we know that that's hyperbole because we can assume that that's an exaggeration. Okay, the quote, so we're saying here, hyperbole. The quote is an example of hyperbole because it claimed the race seemed endless. This, of course, would be an exaggeration because it logically could not be endless and must stop at some point. Very simple. He also says he felt as though he had been running for years. Okay, another case of hyperbole, exaggeration. This is also an exaggeration of the actual scene, but highlights his intense feelings like this last a long time. Okay, so running like years, we know that he's not been running for years. That would be physically impossible. So we know that's an exaggeration. But here you can see at the end, I also point out that the reason for the hyperbole is that it probably highlights that intense tiredness and anxious feeling that he's gotten. Okay, so it feels like he's been running for years because of the intensity of having to run like that for a long time. Okay, so we have two examples there. We have simile, we have hyperbole. You're going to run into metaphor, you're going to run into personification, and of course we know that the quotes are up here. Okay, excuse me, the literary figurative language elements are up here as far as their definitions are concerned to help you out. Okay, all right, so that is our figurative language. We're going to move down to a couple of discussion questions. Okay, so let's go back to the top, the beginning of our chapter here, which I think was page 65, if I'm not mistaken. No, 66. Okay. And the first question was, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, what is Eli's attitude toward God? Cite a quote to support your answer. Okay, if you've read the chapter, we know that he is starting to lose his belief. Okay, so here I say, Eli's attitude toward God is that he begins to question God's motive and whether he will really help the people in the camp. Eli sounds angry. The text states, what are you, my God? I thought angrily. There's the word angrily. How do you compare to the stricken mass gathered to affirm to you their faith, their anger, their defiance? That is the quote right from page 66 at the very beginning, where he's talking about when he starts talking about God having to pray, but he's talking about his belief dwindling a little bit. Okay, so you can see that I ended the quote after their defiance, and then I'll go on to explain. This quote shows he is questioning God. Okay, the text later states, why, but why would I bless him? Every fiber in me rebelled because he caused thousands of children to burn in his mass graves. This is further proof he is resisting God and questioning his goodness while in the camp. Okay, so we have down here uh, when he starts to the men are doing the benediction, but he says, why, but why would I bless him? Every fiber in me rebelled. Okay, the idea of rebelling, he's rebelling against God. So we know that that is his attitude in the question. Okay, So he starts talking about like, why should I keep these Sabbath days? Okay, so that pretty much answers that one, his attitudes towards God. And of course, we were able to cite two quotes there. Okay, let me move on. Whoops, jumped again. Let me go back down. Okay, number two, on Yom Kippur, what are the two reasons Eli doesn't fast as Jews traditionally do? During Yom Kippur, it's known that the Jews will fast for a little while, meaning they will not eat for a while. Let's go down, and all you had to do was find Yom Kippur, and there it is on page, let's see, page 69. And he talks about Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement for Jews. Should we fast? The question was hotly debated. Okay, look at the second paragraph there. I did not fast, first of all, to please my father who had forbidden me to do so, and then there was no longer any reason for me to fast. I no longer accepted God's silence. As I swallowed my ration of soup, I turned that act into a symbol of rebellion. Okay, not fasting became a rebellion and a protest against him. Okay, him, the capital H is God. Okay, I nibbled on my crust of bread. So we can go back to our question. On Yom Kippur, what are the two reasons Eli does? What are the two reasons Eli doesn't fast as Jews traditionally do? Considering what we just read, I've got the two reasons Eli did not fast was because he knew his father felt it would be dangerous. He mentions his father forbids him to do so. He also wanted to protest against God. The text states, quote, I did not fast, first of all, to please my father who had forbidden me to do so, and then there was no longer any reason for me to fast. I no longer accepted God's silence. The text shows clearly his two reasons for not fasting. Okay, so we've restated it, we've answered it, we've given text, we've even explained the text in these two questions. Okay, so that is two of our six questions answered, and two of our about nine, I think it's eight or nine figurative language quotes. Okay, so you'll be working on both of these. All right. Again, those are found in our May 20 and 21 night, chapter 5, figurative language and discussion questions, and then, of course, your pink song lyrics, which is a separate entity from the night uh, book. And the pink lyrics, by the way, have a video that you can listen to, which also expresses the lyrics. Okay. All right. I do hope that helps, guys. Any questions, reach out to me, and I'll be glad to talk with you. All right. Take care. Bye bye.